Cool. Hi everyone. I've got Harry with me from Invoice Stack with us. One of the main problems that we hear from you guys is the problem that we have with integration with Xero, because we help you with streamlining your processes, and when it gets to the Xero side of the thing, we sometimes can't do what you want to do with the free apps that is available. One with from Xero, done by Xero, one done by HubSpot, and you wouldn't want more functionality for different reasons. You want your team stay in HubSpot sometimes, or your team stay in Xero and get the information from HubSpot. So there are all different requests that comes through. So we were lucky to find Invoice Stack and here with Harry today. So we can have a quick demo and ask all sorts of questions that we hear from you guys, and I can ask the questions, and hopefully Harry can take us through those, and we find out how Invoice Stack can help you guys. Obviously, there's going to be more than what I'm asking, but if you have any question, you can forward it to them, and I'm sure Harry would be happy to help you there. Harry, just before I keep talking, because I'm good at it, do you want to introduce yourself, and then we get started with the questions?
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for inviting me on. My name's Harry. So I'm the founder of Weave and Blend, and we are a specialist HubSpot app studio. So we only make apps for HubSpot. And Invoice Stack is our, I guess, kind of flagship product, which helps you kind of integrate. Well, our kind of tagline is better invoicing for HubSpot. And we help you integrate primarily Xero, but also QuickBooks Online as well. It's a product that we originally built for us, for our own needs, and then rolled it out into the app marketplace. So yeah, excited to be able to share it.
Cool. So let's get started. So one of the things is when we look at the client journey, we start the process of getting the leads and turn them to deal, and the deal is closed, and then we want to invoice. So how Invoice Stack can help us to streamline that process, to make sure that you don't have to jump to the Xero, or sometimes you create a task for the account team to go create a thing. So show us how Invoice Stack can streamline that process, so we can stay in one screen and basically do everything from the deal to invoice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we hear from lots of people who struggle with this process. It's a really important part of the process, but often one that gets forgotten about, or seen as not important, or sometimes seen as too complicated to solve. We've seen people doing like spreadsheets. I know our business used to do kind of huge spreadsheets and things like that, and what that lost was the sales team didn't get any transparency about like where their invoices were, what they looked like when they got sent to their client, whether they were the right invoices get sent out. It was a lot of work for the finance, the accounting team, but also there was a real risk of information going missing. All the information's in HubSpot, right? And it basically needs to be copied over into your accounting platform. So that opportunity for deals having forgotten to have invoices taken, and there being no way of tracking things being billed wrong, copied and pasted wrong, amounts wrong, etc. I guess what we call revenue leakage. So there's all kind of problems of doing it the old manual way without a system. So yeah, so I'll walk through. If you like, I can share my screen, and we can see how Invoice Stack can help.
Yeah, that would be great. I think while you're sharing your screen, one of the other things is the time, because the faster you can get that invoice out, the faster you can get paid, and obviously it saves your team lots of time going back and forward trying to send an invoice out. If it saves for each invoice 5 minutes of your team time, based on the hourly rates in New Zealand and Australia, you would probably save a lot of money if you're sending lots of invoices out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, a huge time saver as well. So this is your HubSpot deal.
Yeah.
You're seeing on screen here. So this is kind of fairly typical, I guess. We've got a company and a contact listed on the deal. We've got some line items here as well. As you guys probably know, line items would come from a quote as well. So if you're doing quotes on HubSpot. We integrate really nicely with HubSpot's quotes system, and that will add the line items on there. So how you start Invoice Stack is you literally have a single button on the sidebar of your HubSpot deal. So we just get installed on here. And you would just see a single button. I've got a couple of different accounts installed on here. But you just see a single button that says create invoices. I click.
Sorry, before you move on, I'm just going to stop you for a second. Sure. So if you go back there, I saw multiple zero accounts. So you can basically choose which account. Oh.
Yeah. So I've got a few different demo accounts, but depending on your subscription level and on Invoice Stack, certainly on the higher tiers. But yeah, we support multiple zero accounts. So if you've got an Australian account and a New Zealand account, then you can kind of link both zero installs in there as well.
That's great. Yep.
Yeah, and we support that seamlessly. I know, we have people, I think you've got 7 worldwide kind of accounts all listed here as well. So it makes it really, really easy. You just select it from the screen.
Cool.
So here's the main Invoice Stack window. You can see that's opened up inside the HubSpot deal. You haven't had to leave HubSpot at all. And we usually say 2 things about this screen. Number 1 is everything that you see on screen is basically mirrored from Xero. So all of the contacts, the currencies, we've got all your accounts, all your tax rates, that region that you see there, that's a tracking category in Xero, and also kind of different branding themes as well. So we'll use the branding theme that you've got installed, set up in Xero. And then the second thing as well, it's what we try and do is try and fill out as much information as possible. So we don't want people to have to type. So we've kind of taken their line items, turned them into an invoice to start off with. We've matched a company on the top corner here. We've matched that with your Xero company. And we've even got a kind of product matching setups where you can match your HubSpot SKU codes with your Xero item codes. And what's really great about that is you can pull through different revenue accounts and tax rates on there as well for each different line items. So we can kind of fill it out all automatically. You can also see some other things like the reference field in Xero. We've got that filled out automatically. I've got to use the name of my deal, the deal number, and my name, but you could easily use a purchase order number or something like that.
Cool. And how does this contact think, like if we have a company with, that we only send an invoice to the accounts at, or, invoice at, or whatever. How does that work? Like if we have a deal for Bayside or Markezing, how does the system know which person we're sending this to?
Yeah, so what we're doing here is we're taking the company name, presuming you're a B2B company, because there's the option.
Yep.
But usually we would take the company name in HubSpot and search for the company name in Xero. And it's as simple as that. So that means you can still use the same Xero contact, which, like you say, might be different to the contact that you've got inside HubSpot. So you can kind of maintain kind of 2 separate kind of lists for different purposes. You can also add straight from the screen. So if you've got a new contact, you can just click add new contact. Here all the information is filled in, and that's because it's already in HubSpot. So we're kind of filling it in for you, but you can change the email address. So you can change that to finance at, you can add extra email addresses. And then when you click save, that'll create the contact in Xero, and then you can carry on creating your invoice.
Does it create another contact in HubSpot as well if that contact doesn't exist already?
It doesn't, no. But what you can do as well is if you did have finance at as a separate contact, you can in HubSpot use contact associations, and we have support for that as well. So you could tag somebody as a finance contact, and then when Invoice Stack starts up, it only grabs that information. So there's loads of different options for kind of configuring that.
Cool. Oh, it's actually good that it doesn't create, because it can create a mess at the end of the day. So if you send it to that other contact, basically that invoice is still going to sit under that deal anyway, even though that the contact was, that's great. And you can change your theme if you want to, and change your currency. The reference comes from there, and you can put internal note. And I can see that there's option for repeating invoice as well.
Yeah, so what we'll do is Xero's got a repeating invoices kind of function, which will, if you say you have a monthly invoice, will send you an invoice each month based on the deal. And what we would typically do is we would typically create a repeating invoice if your HubSpot line items say that it's a monthly line item.
Okay.
So we would automatically generate that. But the great thing about Invoice Stack is you can always create extra invoices as well. So say you had this discovering consultancy and they were charged as two separate invoices, you can always add and remove invoices as well. So I can create a repeating invoice template. Obviously, if you were doing this from HubSpot, it would, from your HubSpot line items, it would add the kind of due date and things like that automatically. But you can always drag and drop line items. So if I wanted to build this one monthly, I can just drag it into here. And then you can add extra line items as well. So I think I've got a monthly searching my Xero line.
You know what? I love this UI much better than the bloody new Xero AI invoice UI.
Yeah,
With the drag and drop and everything. I wish Xero could learn from this and do some of this.
Yeah, it's supposed to look a little familiar if you're using Xero, but yeah, we try and do it. But we've got a little bit less space to kind of play with because we're inside this HubSpot window. So trying to be efficient and try and make it as easy to use as possible, but still powerful. I think that's the balance that we're trying to manage. So, but you can even do things like split invoices. So if you're a really common thing is like people billing 50% upfront and 50% like on completion, and that's pretty easy, right? If you've just got one or two line items, but if you have 10 line items, you don't have to copy those across. So we've actually got a payment schedules option. So this will actually do the method. It will grab this discovery line and it will split it into two. So I've got 500 now, 500 later, and then you just change the dates. So like I say, for this demo, it's just obviously just one, but you know, if you had multiple line items, it would copy them all out. So you can easily, so you can see here, we've easily created a kind of an invoice schedule of 2 or 3 invoices that go in as part of this single deal, and it's really easy to create.
What's happening on the top? You have a sync Xero, you have autofill and save progress. So obviously sync Xero sends it to Xero. Does it send it as a does it send it to the client as well, or do we have to send it from Xero? So what's happening there?
Yeah, so you can choose how you want this to work. So some teams like to only let the people in HubSpot create draft invoices. And we can lock that down so that they can't do anything other than create draft invoices. And so that model is they create the draft invoices and they get sent, checked and sent by the finance team. Yes, bigger companies that want to work that way. But if you're a smaller business, you might just want to send straight away. So you can, as soon as the invoice is authorized in Xero, and you can specify that here in the drop down, you can set defaults and things like that. So I can set this invoice as authorized. When I hit sync to Xero, it will then send those invoices over to Xero. And then you'll see a kind of send option show up. So now that invoice has been created in Xero, you can see you've got an invoice number. The template it will use is the same template in Xero. And then I can send from Xero straight here. So that will use the same Xero send option inside Xero. You can preview the invoice and things like that. So essentially,
basically the invoice actually goes from Xero, not from HubSpot, but you see it in HubSpot.
Exactly. So it's basically no change to your process. So your client sees nothing different. You can do it exactly the same way that you're doing at the moment.
That's great.
But if you did want to send it through HubSpot, you can just copy a link here and you can mark it as sent. So I can click mark as sent, and then I can go and I can write my invoice in HubSpot, and I can just paste that out there, and that's a link to my invoice that Xero generates.
But it still sends a Xero link, so it's not a HubSpot link, so they can see the Xero. Which
and because you
click the payment option or anything on the Xero invoice, they can just pay with the Stripe or any other payment option available, PayPal or anything.
Exactly. So your payment methods stay exactly the same as what you've got set up in Xero, which makes things a lot easier. So yeah, like I say, that would have a payment link on it when it shows up.
Is it possible to create an invoice automatically using workflow or anything if the code is accepted?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we have a workflow action as well. So if I go into automations, we have a it's this one. So we have a sample here. This is just inside HubSpot workflows. We have a workflow action, which you can add to any workflow. So any deal-based workflow. So you could obviously kind of like choose the enroll logic. You can choose branching and different scenarios, and then you just put this action in. And this is we're currently beta testing, but what it'll do is it'll grab the contacts and you choose which invoice status, and it will grab all the line items on the deal and put that into an invoice at the moment for you. So the only thing it doesn't do right now, it doesn't do creating contacts yet or sending as part of that process, but that's something we're going to be adding very soon. So yeah, watch the space in that one.
So it basically creates an invoice and syncs it to Xero, and then somebody needs to just check it and pay it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you can send it as a final invoice, so you can authorize it as well. I can see the draft
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. We've got a draft submitted for approval and authorized.
Cool. So now that we've sent our invoice to Xero, and obviously, as you showed us before, we can use multiple different Xero accounts for different currency or different, sister companies or entities that business owns. What will happen when that invoice gets paid?
Yeah, sure. In fact, let me do a payment on here. So I'm just going to click refresh on here. We can see these are the invoices that we created. I'm going to click into this one, and I'm just going to add a payment on here manually. But same thing would happen. If you reconcile it, it would just it would mark it as paid in Xero. Also, by the way, any changes that you make to the invoice in Xero, so if someone edits the amounts once it's in Xero, or they you void it or credit an invoice, all of that information goes straight back to HubSpot. So it's all kind of kept in sync once it's inside Xero. So that's really great from a finance perspective, because if you're working out of Xero, you don't need to go back into HubSpot. You can just stay in Xero, do your thing.
So they can attach a credit note if they're like overpaid or something, and then that reflect in HubSpot that half of it is paid or $700 of it is paid or whatever. Cool.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm here and click refresh on here. I'm pleased this worked on a live demo. It's always tough, right? But yeah, you can see sometimes it takes a couple of minutes, but you can see I've got a notification on screen to say that one of my invoices has been paid. So obviously we had multiple invoices on that deal. So you see our invoice status now goes from invoices synced to first invoice paid to all invoices paid. And then we have extra deal properties on here. So we had I think it's like 25 different deal properties on your HubSpot deal. So it would say when the next invoice is going out, the number of invoices, number that are paid, whether invoices are overdue or not. So all of the status, and these are all updated automatically. So you don't need to do anything. All of this information is done.
And we can use that to trigger any workflow as well, obviously.
Exactly. So you could do a workflow to say that an invoice is overdue. You can have an invoice to say, you can have a workflow even to say that invoices haven't been created yet. So like 7 days after it's been closed won, someone forgotten to do the admin. It's one of those scenarios we talked about right at the beginning. Was forgotten to invoice the deal. You can set a reminder because we know whether you've created invoices or not from that deal property.
Cool. And we see that activity timeline on 12th of August at 7:26. If the reconciliation done later, so like this invoice is paid today, the client paid it pay the money today, and the reconciliation happens, let's say, 2 days later, it's still the payment date will show today, or would it show the reconciliation date?
I think it would show. Yeah, which
take
yeah, it would show the reconciliation date. So it would show whenever zero considers the invoice as paid is what will show. Yeah, yeah. So it doesn't have the details of the individual payments that get paid from zero.
Cool. And does it show how it's been paid? Like if they use a credits or credit note or something, does it have any of those details here that we can see, or then do we have to basically go to zero for that?
I think you need to go to zero for that. I don't think zero gives us that information. But it's a cool idea though. So we're up for adding new features and new information, especially in the sidebar. If anyone kind of thinks of anything that that we don't already have, then we're happy to add new things. So somebody came to us recently and said, well, hey, the invoice links, it would be great if I had only the overdue invoice links on a deal property, and then I can send a workflow to say, please pay your invoice, and do that through HubSpot instead, and send the overdue invoice links in as part of that email. So that's a kind of change that we made recently, to add overdue invoice links on there as well. So
that was part of the workflow that you showed me before, correct?
Yeah, you could build a workflow out just like that. It could they were invoicing just manual invoices, like we non-automated ones, but they had an automated kind of flow to chase invoices.
Cool. And I think the other useful thing is if they're using a software like Cradle for following up invoices and all that, and they can open HubSpot and they can see all the outstanding invoices, so they can do the accounting can really follow up the invoices and put the notes against in HubSpot to say why they haven't paid or whatever, and so the whole team has got a view of that to see what's going on. Most of our clients use a app called Cradle IO, which is another great New Zealand app that we use. So that could streamline things quite a lot to see, okay, these invoices needs to be followed up. So thinking of that, thinking out loud. So if somebody wants to have a accounting following up all the outstanding invoices, can we see all the outstanding invoices? Can we create a report or create a dashboard with all the outstanding invoices that they can click on and call one by one, and then put the note there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a dashboard here. It's my invoicing demo dashboard. So you can get a list of all your deals.
Yeah.
Invoice status of all of those deals, and whether they're overdue or not. And so I can obviously create a list like this. I can filter it by only overdue, and I can click in from here, and I can easily go in and add notes. And if I click into any of these, I can go in and I can view and amend invoices at any time as well. So I can click view, and I can see, hold on, I can add an extra invoice or send with zero. You see this one's got a credit on here as well as an example. So yeah, you can go back in and see anytime you need.
And also, I think the other thing we can do, we can create a task queue for the overdue invoices, and from the workflow create those and then complete the tasks as well. So the accounting can go through the task queue and make the calls that is overdue.
Yeah, great idea. Yeah, you can create anything like a task, internal notifications, even client-facing ones if you need.
Cool. So now we have all those information back. So as far as the view in HubSpot, we have that right-hand view, which is Invoice Stack that we create invoice and all that. And we have on the left hand, we have that invoicing part that shows up under the deals only, correct?
Yeah, so these are under other deal properties, but because they're normal HubSpot properties, you can kind of copy them and put them in other places. And
put them anywhere,
I've chosen to show some of them in this invoicing sidebar, but you don't have to show them there.
And then So you will see on the left-hand side all the property changes, all the status changes, and on the right-hand side is just for creating invoices, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything else I have forgot to ask or you want to show us?
No, I don't think so. I think that's the kind of key functionality. I guess the only other thing to say about Invoice Stack is that it's really, the only other thing to say about Invoice Stack is we've spent a lot of time trying to make sure that the setup and sign up process is really nice and easy. So to install Invoice Stack, it takes 5 or 10 minutes, and all you need to do, you can start a free trial online, and then all you need to do is just link up your HubSpot, link up your Xero account, go through, double check a settings page, and then you can kind of get started with it and try it straight away. So we spent a lot of time trying to make sure that that process is really nice and easy, and we've got loads of kind of documentation that kind of shows you how to do that. So it's really important to us.
Cool. And we're going to put a link probably under this video in the email that you receive, and you can click there and check the pricing and sign up as well if you want to. Obviously, if you have any question, you can ask us, support@markezing.com. Or, Harry, what's the best email to get hold of your team?
So best email from my team is just support@invoicestack.co, not .com.
Okay, no, that's great. Thank you for your time. It was great having you, and hopefully we can get more people using this great system. I think one of the best things is two take away from me is having consistent data throughout the process, like what you have in your deal and it goes to the to Xero and everything, and also the time saving. So what you showed me, the time saving on that would be a lot more than the subscription fee that you guys charge. Is going to be a huge time saver for anybody who wants to use the system compared to the free ones available out there. But great having you, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.